This video is going to be different. It's not what you're thinking. We're not
settling down. I'm not pregnant.
I might look pregnant, but that's a whole different story. Hello and welcome to our channel. We're Andre and Lisa. We've been traveling together as a couple for 20 years, exploring more than 50 countries. Since 2018, we've embraced a full-time nomadic lifestyle, aiming to make travel a sustainable and long-term way of life. For the past 4 years, we've been winding our way around Europe with our 22-year-old motorhome, Millie. This year, after enjoying new destinations such as Morocco and Sardinia, and returning to some old favorites, we're extending our summer in sunny Sicily before we head off to escape winter. So hit that subscribe button and join us on our adventure. Welcome back to Sicily!
No.
Well, it could be Sicily.
The sun is shining today, but the weather has changed rather quickly.
We are not in Sicily, although it could be Sicily. We are in Puglia. Welcome back to our channel. Welcome back to Italy.
And welcome to the area of the Italy that we call home.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Now, last time we saw you, we were in Sicily. To be honest, we didn't record for like 2 weeks.
We enjoyed the fantastic weather and our second summer, just relaxing amongst the beach and enjoying the good weather.
We did make a hasty retreat for Puglia, and we have got a big trip coming in a couple of weeks. One of the reasons we had to come to Puglia is to actually prepare for that trip, but we drove from Salvigno Capo and Sicily, and we drove towards Puglia, and it's actually super easy and fast. We took the ferry across the Messina Strait, and it was 52 euros for one way.
Crossing the straits only 20 minutes, and we took about 3 days to reach Puglia, and you can easily do it in 2.
Yeah, it gave us a comfort that's easy enough to go back to Sicily if we want to.
Because we are definitely not done with Sicily. I think what we did realize is that there's a lot to see there, and it's quite easy for van life in the off-season. So we're looking forward to exploring a bit more Sicily next time.
Yeah, so what are we doing in Puglia?
I think this is a question that we're asking ourselves at the moment, day after day after day, because we've been really immersed in our hunt for property in Puglia.
Oh, sorry, some flies. No, we're not stopping traveling. We're not settling down. We're not starting cottage revamping videos. Not yet, anyway.
No, definitely not.
But in this video and the following, I think we're going to mostly dedicate to our experience over the last few weeks. Flies. Looking around property.
We'll share a little bit of our thought process as to why we're doing this, what we've got in mind, even though we might not know what we've got in mind.
Yeah, well, let's start with that actually.
Okay,
so why are we looking for property?
Why did this come about? I mean, when we arrived in Puglia 2 years ago, we sort of said for the first time, this is an area in Italy in which we could live. But at that point, we were definitely nowhere near wanting to buy property.
I think we'll take it a step back. Now, we've been fully nomadic without a home base for more than 7 years now. We're coming up to 7 years?
7 years.
7 years. It's not a travel style we dislike, and we've always sort of motivated that as a way to live, and it's something we want to continue doing. But we've realized that it has some drawbacks, and especially the last 3.5 years spending in the motorhome, we're realizing that actually, maybe if we think about getting a home base, it could not only change the way we travel for the better, but give us more options going forward. You know, motorhome travel is great. I mean, I think we love this type of traveling, but we also find, and this is especially true, I think, during peak seasons like summer and winter, the time we're approaching now, is we tend to find we go into a waiting zone or waiting mode. We're waiting for spring, we're waiting for autumn, we're waiting for longer days. And the problem with that is that it feels like we're not making the most of the time we actually have.
Motorhome travel was never intended to be a long-term way of travel for us. It just sort of happened. We never expected to be doing this for more than 3 years. But at the same time, even though there's aspects of it that we're getting a little bit tired of, we don't feel like we're done with motorhome travel. There's still so much of Europe that we want to see, and we believe that seeing it by motorhome is by far the best way for us to do that.
Nothing should be permanent. I think we've got this sort of mentality where the idea is not to buy something forever. This is not where we're going to retire or settle down.
We're already retired. We settled.
That's true. Are you saying you settled? I'm not sure how I feel about that. Don't ever settle. So the idea is not to buy something that's going to serve a long-term future. And we appreciate the reality that this is a lifestyle choice right now. We're making a change to the way we plan on doing things for the next 5 to 10 years. And we might change again.
And we're hoping that actually by finding a little base, we may be able to maximize our opportunities for using the motorhome more in Europe, but mixing it up so that it actually becomes more sustainable with different types of travel in between.
So why are we in Puglia? Okay, so we like Puglia for a number of reasons. It doesn't have to all mountains. We don't really like mountains. Great beaches, great food.
Specifically, Salento is actually quite a small area, and we like the fact that everything's in good reachable distance, lots of coast.
You can go drive to Naples here in a few hours. You can take a ferry to Sardinia, go to Spain, go to Sicily, take a ferry from Brindisi or Bari, and go to Greece or Albania or Croatia. What more can you ask for?
You've got airports nearby.
One more thing to mention is, generally speaking, the weather is not extreme in winter here. I don't want to be here necessarily. So this is something we also keep in mind. What if we do want to be here?
But if you have to look for somewhere in Europe, this is about as southmost as you can get while still being practical to reach by camper and good connectivity.
So what are we looking for? Now, that is $1 million question. Now, in the next video, we'll probably share a lot more about the lessons we've already learned. But just quickly, €1 houses in Italy. Woo!
Everybody says, oh, have you looked at those? You should definitely get a €1 house in Italy.
Now, there's no shortage of property available in Italy. And obviously, there are these €1 projects.
Which are very real.
Yeah, of course, of course. And if you don't want to go the €1 route, there's actually a lot of really cheap property. If you are willing to live in certain parts of Italy, we just don't have the firstly, energy for it, and secondly, we know the reality that nothing's just €1. So it can be a great project, but you've got to be prepared to really get stuck into it. And often the expectation is that you live there.
Well, this is the thing. The location of these places is not where we want to be, not because of general location, but they're always within a little city because they're trying to re-establish a community there, and we don't want to be in a city.
So we had these ideas, you know, as you sort of travel and you're in different countries or you're in the motor or whatever, it's like, what are we missing? You know, people talk about community or routine, but frankly, we want peace.
Peace. Nature around us, space, privacy.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
being in a motorhome for more than 3 years now, what we miss the most is having privacy and just space around us. Constantly being in a public space where you can't expect someone to not look in your windows.
And that doesn't matter whether you're in a campsite or a parking lot. It's the same applies. I want to have a bit more space to be more productive when the weather's bad. I want to do maintenance on my vehicle. I want to do different types of exercises.
And to have a place where you know that you always have nature around you, whether you want to go for a walk or a run and just enjoy the environment in which you are.
There's this like push and pull in terms of practicality, because the moment you want to be closer to a beach, there's a high demand for it, but out of season, the areas in Italy can be very dead, which is good and bad. Then again, if you go deeper inland, there's a high demand, say, from Northern Europeans for more rural properties, and that pushes the prices up. Or you've got to be willing to indulge into a massive project.
And also the places that are closer to the coast, we know that we wouldn't necessarily want to be there in the peak season, so it might be a good opportunity to rent it out. But at the same time, if we have a place, we want to know that we could go there at any time of the year.
We've spent the last week now looking at a bunch of properties. We're not going to show all of them to you, but I think we're going to discuss briefly so you can see what we're looking at, the different types of properties that we're looking at, and quickly give our feedback on it. And then We're viewing more properties going forward. In the next video, actually, I think we'll probably look at more rural properties again.
Our initial thoughts were very much, we love the idea of all these olive trees here in Puglia and living on a farm because we had a little bit of time spent on our friend's farm, and just this idea of taking a little rustic, either the rustic buildings and making it a home, but having all the space around you.
Back in the day, almost all the olive farms had little storage rooms on it, and the idea was that farmers would use those to store their tools, and they go there every day, but they return to the village. So a lot of these smaller buildings exist all over the countryside. Now, over time, the state has developed programs where these properties could be reconstituted into habitable spaces, but that is quite a process. But there's some massive limits.
There's massive limitations on the size of the building. So they have actually made it that it's a certain percentage of the size of the land, and you can sometimes increase these buildings, but you still, if you don't want a ridiculous amount of land, you're still limited to a very small building.
Very small.
And the truth is, even though this seems so romantic, the idea of having your own little castle with olives all around you and staying in a farm, we've lived in this camper for 3.5 years. I think we want a little bit more space, and we're only starting to realize that as we've gone deeper into this property search.
So you're either going to find building land, which is actually very difficult because it's not, you can't convert productive agricultural land into building land. So you have to find land that is zoned for building and start from scratch. Or you have to find something like these depositors or agricultural storage areas, which you're allowed to convert, but you're not allowed to exceed the footprint.
And that also comes with additional challenges of services. You know, everybody thinks you're buying something, oh cool, I'm going to just have a flushing toilet and running water. All of these properties do not have any form of sewerage system. It's septic tank style, and a lot of them don't even have a water supply. It's either by artisanal well, if there is one, or otherwise you've just got a system which gets filled up by a tanker every now and then.
Or you have to get rainwater. In saying all the above, some of our dreams have been shattered.
We don't know exactly what we want, but we do know what we don't want.
Oh, yes?
Yes, we don't want direct neighbors. We want to have space around us.
We don't mind direct neighbors, but I don't want to share a wall with a neighbor, and preferably not a summer house neighbor.
Yes, definitely
so
not.
A little bit of space, a sense of space, right?
We also don't want a house that is directly on the road. It is very traditional, not only on the agricultural land, but in Italy, to have a massive piece of land, but for the house to be built bordering on the road. We don't want to hear traffic.
Ideally, a place where it's fully enclosed, you know, the land, possibly. We don't want to be in the middle of nowhere.
We want to feel safe leaving the place, saying lock up and go, leave Millie there and disappear for a year if that's what we want to do.
Ideally close to people we know so we can help each other out if necessary, but this is all challenges now.
Over the last few weeks, we have looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties.
Online.
Online, yes.
Of
We
course.
managed to whittle it down to a short list, of which then we eventually started seeing a reduced short list of properties. We've seen about 5 or 6 properties in the last week, of which we'll show you 4 now. And in the coming week, we're seeing another 4.
Now, let's just get into this. This video is getting completely out of hand. Which was the first
Was
property?
luckily number 1. We've given all these properties names, was Palm Tree House.
Because we referred to these properties to each other. It's like, which one are you talking about? Okay, this is Palm Tree House. I only got one palm tree. Now, we liked it because it was close to the beach, but not too close. Came with a little olive grove at the back, but as with many of these properties, also have its downsides. The building is quite old, and the
Access was actually quite challenging with the camper, and
it's going to be a project, and it hasn't been inhabited for a while. You'll have to do a complete renovation.
the view from the top on the roof was absolutely that romantic view over the olive trees. Lovely, lovely roof access, which is a very important thing for me. But the house was terrible.
No. Unfortunately, right next door, although not inhabited, there was another house. So there's this like uncertainty what's going to happen there. On the other side, you have olive groves, which is nice. You have your own little olive grove, which is a complication, but something interesting. But I think in principle, the house is just too much of a project for us.
And I think also sometimes you just get this feeling, and the minute we approached the house, I think neither of us were feeling it. Beach House is very, very promising.
No, ironically, Beach House is about the same distance from the beach as the previous one.
It's 1 kilometer
1
from the
kilometer
beach.
And the reason why we call it beach house is because it's actually part of a little town, I think, but it's completely standalone. There's no direct neighbors, although on the corner one side there is a developed plot where someone has a small summer house. There's also one of these rural properties being developed. But there's a moratorium on developing further in that area due to lack of municipal services. So you're pretty much guaranteed that you won't get
Direct neighbors.
neighbours.
Only one diagonal neighbor. And the house itself is really built as a beach house, as most of these places along the coast are. The Italians really, and I mean rarely, live close to the coast. They mostly live in the cities and they go to the coast for the months of summer for vacation.
That's right.
And that's why these houses are also built quite a bit smaller.
And also to live outside.
Yes.
Yes. Often not really with heating because they don't need it. So there's a lot of these houses aren't really suitable for cold weather habitation. And often, dare I say, built without,
With irregularities.
let's call it irregularities.
Built a little bit beyond that which is approved on the municipal plans. Now, what we really like about it is the feeling that you get when you're there. If you're on the little patio, you just look out and you see nature. You don't see anybody else around you. If you can make it up onto the roof, you can actually see the sea.
Yeah.
You're 1 kilometer
Less than a
walking
kilometer.
distance to the beach, which are the most incredible, stunning beaches.
In the Italian property market, it is quite acceptable to put an offer that is lower than asking price and then negotiate on that within reason, depending on what you think a place is worth. Now, the first place we spoke about was
Listed for 73.
75,000 euros. Keeping in mind that what you buy there is what you see.
Yes.
So you might inherit problems that becomes your problems. So if there's any irregularities, you might have to remedy that and you might have to update certain systems. Now the beach house, I think is listed for 99,000 euros. And one could realistically make a slightly lower offer. Now we'll share some lessons we've learned maybe in the next video about how do you approach these things. But just to give you an idea of what you can expect, you could live there tomorrow.
Yes,
We
and
could buy it, we can move in.
there's a perfect place for Millie in the back garden. There's enough space for another vehicle as well. It's a lock up and go. It's already got secure gates. It's even got a camera system. So it's very attractive from the point of moving in tomorrow, being excellent location to the beach, having a feeling of nature, but still being in civilization.
But
It's quite small.
yes, so it's pretty much just a 2-room home with a kitchen space. Also keep in mind when you buy property in Italy, everything comes out of the house. That includes the kitchen.
And
potentially
possibly even the
bathroom.
toilet.
It's bizarre. And so all of these properties, there's no built-in wardrobes. There's no storage solutions. So this is all something you got to think about. Okay, the next is actually
yes.
2 more rural properties. So this is typically where there's a patch of land with a house that was either built many decades ago or something was being converted or in the process of being converted from an old storage facility.
So the house is set back from the road by enough that it's not on the road, but you do still hear
Still
it.
hear the road.
And you've got a lovely big piece of land with olive trees, but it's a long skinny stretch of land that just goes on forever in one direction.
It's bizarre. It's like 3 trees wide.
And it just keeps going on. But the house is really old. Don't know when last anybody's lived in it. It's in terrible condition.
Well, the problem is like some of the solutions that was used to supply water, to catch rainwater, you build a cistern and then suddenly you have rising damp issues.
The cistern is leaking and that causes problems. The storage system which is there is
Doesn't
also
work.
one of the older systems which are, can we say, what is it, a seepage system? Or how do you,
No, it's called a soakaway. It's like a French-style drain with a soakaway system.
which today needs to be replaced with a sealed system. So there's a lot of work to be done there. And quite frankly, it's really a little bit more land than we need. And the house doesn't speak to us.
Often when these properties are priced, the sellers take into account the value of the land and the trees, but for us, unfortunately, doesn't add a lot of value.
Although the trees are beautiful, they're actually going to be work for us and may even cost us to be able to maintain them because we're not going to be on the property full time or something.
So this super old structure for 90. Now one can argue, well, you're going to have to spend another 90 and maybe have something nice, but there's a big downside. The place isn't fully enclosed. You need to fence it. You have a service road going up to the farmlands next to you, which we don't like. The house is actually built on the boundary line of your next on the neighbors.
The patio wall is the boundary wall.
But if you stand on the roof, you see the ocean.
Although I'm too scared to climb up the roof to the roof.
Okay, let's move on to the last
Now,
one.
the last one is actually the very first property that caught our eye, and that one we call 70 because it was supposed to be listed for 70,000 and be a little house of 70 square meters. Turns out the little house that is there is actually a lot less than 70 square meters. It's closer to 40 square meters inside with 20 square meters of patio.
This one appealed to us a lot because on paper it was a private road access to it with neighbors you knew.
But not on top of you.
Not that close to a main road, although in our experience now you still hear traffic, which is not ideal. But it had a lot of potential because the structure itself is sound, already had a new system fitted, the electric supply had its
Artisan
own
well.
well. So water is not a problem, but it comes with 20,000 square meters of land and
180 olive
trees.
trees, but it's got underground irrigation. And the structure itself, what's been built there, is in good condition. It's not yet finished, but we'd rather have something to finish ourselves than something that's old and been standing there dilapidated.
So this project is great because you can see all the main work has been done. A lot of the electric work has been done. You still need to redo your doors maybe and fit some windows, although shutters and stuff is in there. The inside layout is a big problem. We just can't get our heads around how to make the space work for what we need. You're going to be forced to expand towards the outside, build a deck with maybe a patio, make better use of the veranda, the covered area to sort of extend your living spaces. But for us, who's not really always going to be there in the summer months, we have to sort of adopt a slightly different approach.
The land is really attractive. It's got this lovely feeling of just being out in the farmlands. You've got a nice view from the top of the roof, and you can either look over towards the sea or towards the back, towards all the olives. But we have to ask ourselves whether a building of that size is big enough to have as a little base.
We already live in a little base, so we don't want another little one.
It's tricky. This was definitely one that really was on the top of our list. And I think we're just realizing it's more of a dream than a reality.
We are keeping one property we're not going to show you right now, sort of in our back pocket, because that's sort of the top of our list at the moment, and we might go back and have a look at it again. We're going to look at a few more rural properties.
Couple that we think have got very, very good potential, but
Which is
completely
really
opposite
cool.
to the one that we at the moment are leaning towards. Are we looking for something now that is this romantic idea, or do we look a little bit more short term and say this is going to serve us a little bit better in the short term, and perhaps later we'll find our little castle and farm?
This is a lifestyle choice, and it's not an investment of any means. I think that's something we have to be realistic about. I'm a bit of a realist. I'm not one to grow my own vegetables. I've done that, but I have no desire really to do it. It just doesn't make sense. We were talking about olive trees. Do you know how many olives it takes to produce 1 liter of olive oil?
Hell of a lot.
Now, the average olive tree can produce about 15, maybe 20 kilograms of olives a year. But 15 is more realistic. It takes at least 5 kilograms, maybe up to 8 kilograms. Let's say 5 kilograms of olives to produce 1 liter of olive oil. Do you know how many olives?
On 1 kilo.
Is in 1 kilogram? The point is, if you have 10 olive trees, okay, you can maybe get 30 liters of olive oil. Now, that's a lot of work for 30 liters of olive oil. The price of olive oil is actually halving as we speak in Spain. So,
perfect time for us to buy an olive farm.
I know. So the problem is, when you have olive trees, you have to either get someone to look after it for you, which they will do. Hopefully, you don't have to pay them for it if they can use the olives or the oil. But there's something just to keep in mind.
At the end of the day, the land is still going to be your responsibility, whether there's underground irrigation or whatever it is, if something goes wrong. Even though I am incredibly keen for a project in the sense of finishing it up, making it our own, I don't think I'm quite ready for it right now. I think it's going to hold us back too much. We've still got big plans for the next year and for the next few years to come in terms of travel. So we don't want something that's going to anchor us or hold us back. We want something that's going to be comfortable and is going to actually add to our ongoing travel experience over the next few years.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. Yeah, we're hoping that we can be a lot more focused, a lot more structured in the way we plan. We can do slightly shorter or longer trips without waiting somewhere.
And just mix up the way in which we travel.
Exactly. So we hope you enjoyed this slightly different video. We'll probably show a little bit more around Puglia for the next video, and obviously the next property. So remember to subscribe.
And if you've got any comments or feedback, please give it to us, because this is incredibly real time. This video is going out tomorrow. No, the day after tomorrow. So we are right in the midst of really thinking about this and possibly making a decision.
So as always, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time in Puglia, Italy. Arrivederci.
Ta-ta!